Hello, John.
Hello, Lilu. Great to see you. Lovely to talk to you.
Thank
Happy to
you.
chat with you.
You have a lovely British accent. I love it. It's warming my ears for the Juicy Living tour starting in London very soon. How cool is
Yes.
that? Thank you.
It's very exciting. I was looking at that on your site. It's a wonderful thing that you're doing. How lovely for all the people who will get to be with you, and you'll all explore together. It's fantastic.
Yes, and I love this global conversation. I love having conversations with people like you with experience, and I love to share their wisdom openly and freely for people to hear and apply in their own life. And I value your work because for many reasons. You're a multi-hatted man, definitely. You're an artist, a musician, a composer, but also an author.
Playwright, actor.
On and on and on and on. And this conversation I want to have, that I want to deal with, well, I would like to have with you, is about dealing with negative energies and people, and that can lead to whatever else. I know the
Yes,
conversation
absolutely.
sometimes has a life of its own. But you're author of two books, The Power of I Am and Heroes
Yes.
Ascending.
Eros Ascending, yes.
So from my understanding, your life has been a lot. You have dealt with big, huge egos, I'm sure, in your life, being on the performance stage for 40 years.
Right.
Especially you have worked with French people, so I'm sure you've dealt with a big deal of that. And I was wondering, what are your recommendations, and how can we deal with those negative energies around us without losing our power?
Right. Well, it's very important that we spiritually evolving people, which means on one level that you're going to become more and more sensitive to the beauty in creation. Your consciousness starts to expand. You don't feel that you're just a body anymore, but you feel that you're occupying a large space around yourself. And when people who are in a negative state of mind are putting out negative energy come in contact with your field, unless you know how to deal with that, you can immediately start to fall under the spell of their negativity. In other words, you're actually being influenced and ruled by something that's downline from you, vibratorily speaking. So if we walked around trying to hold up shields and barriers all day long, we get very, very tired. What we need to do is to increase our energy field to the point where negativity just bounces off us.
I like that.
Yes, the founder of Aikido said, "It's not that I don't get thrown off. I recover so quickly you don't notice I was away." So as my consciousness began to expand and I opened myself up to become more and more sensitive to the beauty in life, I had to find a way to deal with the variables that come up in social interactions. What I found is, one thing is that the two eyes of a person reflect different aspects of their being. Are you right-handed, Lilu?
Yes, I am, yeah.
Yes, so I'm right-handed also. So as I'm looking at your image now, I'm gazing into your left eye. And what that does, it connects us essence to essence, because that's what you were born with. All babies are born in essence. They're a tabula rasa. Nothing has been written in their consciousness. They're just pure beingness, right? So as we look in our essence eye right now, we're connecting with that. Now, the other eye is the personality eye. This is, you just moved your hair there, and we're looking now right eye to right eye. And for us, that connects with the part of the brain that has all your memories, all your past experiences, hopes, fears, dreams, so forth. It's the good, the bad, and the variable. So whenever I meet anyone for the first time, I shake their hand and I look into their essence eye. We connect essence to essence. Now for you, as I said, right-handed person, I'm looking in your left eye. So as I shake hands, I look across the shade. If you were left-handed, I would look straight across. Because if you were left-handed, your essence would be in your right eye. What it does, looking into the essence of someone, it establishes immediately a sense of oneness, rapport, underneath whatever's going to be spoken between us. So it's a wonderful way to prepare the stage for a kind of communication that is very free-flowing and very, very open. Now, if you're dealing with an egotist, you talked about egotists. My definition of an egotist is he thinks he is who he thinks he is. This self-identity they've created, and they try to impose that on you, or worse, try to impose upon you who they think you are. Right? So this can be a tricky thing to deal with. So if you look into the essence eye of a person who's an egotist and they don't care about love and connection, they might look at you like this. with a look of contempt, like, so what I do is I look away for a second, then I look into their personality eye, and the unspoken message is, I wouldn't go there if I were you, I'm on to you. It's very Obi-Wan Kenobi. Oh, these are not the ones you're looking for. These are not the one. Off they go, you see. So why should we, as spiritually evolving people, play by the rules that people trapped in the three-dimensional consciousness use all the time to make their way through life? Because it's all done by manipulation, verbal manipulation, pushing, aggressive, this and that. They're trying to be right, trying to one-up and so forth. They're practicing 24 hours a day while we're meditating and tuning in with the infinite and so forth. So we need to bring that power back into our life. I call it mastering life through higher power.
Mm-hmm.
All the great ones have been able to do that. They can kind of work little miracles here and there. And what a miracle is, it's bringing an energy of higher consciousness into a situation where the vibration is kind of dense and changing the atmosphere. I'm sure that you are very much like my wife, Emily. When you walk in a room, everything lights up.
Thank you. Thank you, but I can get very, very easily trapped with negative energies, and I lower my vibration, and I notice that definitely doesn't work.
Well, you don't lower it. It starts to lower by itself. But the eye of I am can catch that.
Mm-hmm. The eye of I am, you just said?
Yes, the eye of your being.
Okay.
I mean, Lilu is the personal self. I am is the power behind the throne. It's the transcendent being that you were born as, now manifesting as Lulu. We're all actors on the stage of life. Your role is to be Lulu Mace, and you dress her a certain way, and you present that into the world, but it's simply the persona, it's the image through which the divine is trying to manifest its uniqueness on the personal level. Same with me. My assigned role is John Maxwell Taylor. I am that I am, and my personal expression is John Maxwell Taylor. Mm-hmm. If I think I'm just John Maxwell Taylor, then I have no connection with this other. But we don't deny either. The power of I am is about putting both of them together. It's a marriage of me and I, personal self, the transpersonal self. Put them together, go out in the world, and see if you can stand unshaken amidst the crash of falling worlds.
Because whether we're missing one part, then if we're missing one part, then we're not in balance, and we're not
balanced.
It's not going to make any sense.
No, and you see many spiritual people who they get into the three upper chakras and they cut off the lower part of their body. They can't manifest because they're denying the earth experience. They're not healthy. All of these problems, we need to be fully present right down. The soul needs to be present right down to the soles of our feet.
Yeah,
that's basic. That's basically what it's about, and I've trained myself over the years to be able to do that. It's the bliss is easy, Lilu. It's living that's hard. Living in a world where people don't know anything about spiritual dimensions and other possibilities and so forth. But we can walk through this world like kings and queens, unassailed by the madness around us. George Bernard Shaw once said, the planet Earth is the lunatic asylum of the galaxy. And if you look at what's going on all around the world, there's always been madness on the surface of life. Beneath it, there's the depth of huge potential, which is what you tap into, and it's what you take people on your tours. I'm sure that you're living on that level, moving through the modern world with an extra dimensionality of companionship and adventure that is very empowering for people, and we all need to learn how to do this right now, because it's a time of spiritual heroism. Mm-hmm. We need to be heroic, not in our, oh yes, I'm heroic, not that type of thing, but to embody the power of spirit in your life, no matter what's going on you. That's true heroism. See? Mm-hmm. No matter what's going on around you, that's spiritual heroism.
Yeah.
And if you get thrown off, you get back on your horse straight away. You bring yourself back to the center where the vibration of the I am, which is actually in the spine and the brain. The spine is the first thing that forms in the body. After the medulla, the spine forms, and that's what pulsates with the I am energy, and also in the brainstem. This is the tree of life. When Moses saw the burning bush, he was looking within and saw his spine and brain, which looks like a tree all lit up with this divine energy. So merging that energy with the personal self, and you can have fun. Obviously, Lilu, you're a person who enjoys life very, very much, and I love playing John Maxwell Taylor. He's a lot of fun, He can sing and he can act.
So wouldn't you agree that imagination, imaginary is a big part of living really this abundant, juicy, magical life.
Yes. Well, as a person who's cranking out plays and music and non-stop, about 20 years ago, I managed to get the gusher of my creativity, the lid off it, boom, so it's streaming out all the time. Then I had to cap it and let it out when I wanted, But I'm extremely highly imaginative, and I can visualize, like if I were sitting in a room with you and I closed my eyes for a second, I would see you as clearly with my eyes closed as I would with my eyes open. So to visualize the better life that you want, you actually have to be able to hold what it is you want like a hologram in your consciousness. Then you project it out through your spiritual eye and your heart into the akasha, the energy that's all around, and lo and behold, it shows up. But you do have to be very careful and make sure that what you want is really what you want, because it will show up. And things have shown up in my life. No, I was just kidding. I was just worried. No, I don't want that. Thank you.
And tell us about the intangible or the unmanifested, characters that could even we can imagine around us, helping us, and living that, feeling that, and actually our subconscious, our mind, our being is not making then the difference between what's real and what's not real, what's created. And I feel people that do that can create kind of something very, very juicy from it, without being weird or strange, but just playing with that as you do, I'm sure, as an actor, or I shouldn't say, or as a performer at least.
Well, when I did my one-man play about the life of Carl Jung, I played 20 different characters on stage for 2 hours and told the story of his life. 5 of those characters were women, including his wife, Emma, and his mistress, Tony Wolfe. At one point, I played a 17-year-old girl who thought she lived on the moon and was being chased by a vampire. But to get the audience to believe that, you see, requires that I can embody it for a few seconds. I embody that being, that person on stage, and it transmits to the audience. The true purpose of acting, in the spiritual sense, is to make the invisible visible to people. And I think that that's what we're trying to do in our life. We're trying to make our imagination, our hopes and our dreams and our visions, which are invisible, manifest in the world, because until they manifest in the world, it does remain in the realm of imagination. So syncing up what's out there with what we're capable of producing in the imaginary world. We're all creative beings. Everybody needs to explore their creativity, be it through painting, through writing, through talking, through whatever means possible to excavate that part. I mean, I started out strumming the guitar on 3 chords, singing songs about driving spikes on the railroad, which I, of course, knew nothing about. But I've gone from that to writing full symphonic type musicals, and this new album that I'm working on with 36 songs, which were all inspired by my relationship with Emily, because her feminine energy fertilized my consciousness, and I gave birth to thought children in the form of songs. I impregnate a woman, she gives birth to a child, I get a download from a beautiful woman, and all of a sudden there's all this creative juice flowing, because to me, consciousness is a feminine principle. The first principle of creation is actually feminine, because it's a womb into which the Absolute projects its will so that the atoms come into being, and then the planets and stars all come into form. So first of all is the will, which is an act of creative joy, but it's the feminine principle that makes us conscious. Without it, we would not be know that we were alive. You'd have all this creation, but nothing to be conscious of it. So whenever I'm thinking of a play or a new song is coming through, I'm always aware that I'm getting a download of energy from the eternal feminine principle. And to be able to embody that without losing one iota of my manliness is a great task in this world today. We need men who are fully men in the new sense of the world, and women who fully embody the feminine principle, which you do so gloriously, if I might say so.
No, you're so lovely. I love it. This is the British little touch and compliments. I love it. So gracious.
We're neighbors growing up, So.
What else is there in to bring up our energies, to bring up our vibrations? Because from my understanding, the more our vibrations are high, the more we're into this flow and really juicy life.
Right. Well, for me, it has been cultivating my sexual energy through Taoist understanding of what sexuality and spirituality mean, so that my brain cells feed upon my sexual energy. Every time you breathe in, your sexual energy starts to move up through your body. It wants to go up to the brain, to open up the brain, the thousand-petal lotus, but often it gets waylaid. It falls on old patterns in us and tensions and fears and so forth. So, you know, when you go to an acupuncturist, he will or she will insert needles so the energy flows through the acupuncture meridians of the body. If our sexual energy can flow easily through the acupuncture meridians of our body, it will saturate all our body cells and our internal organs with the same creative life force which allows us to produce beings made in our own image, which is a godlike experience. God created man and woman in his or her own image, whichever it was. I don't know, I wasn't there. But we create children who look like us, a combination of the two parents, right? So that intelligence is embodied in our cells, in our bodies. It's the highest substance produced from everything we eat, everything we drink, the air that we breathe. The big mandate from nature is produce more offspring, produce more offspring. When we don't do that and we take that energy and use it to give birth to ourselves and to higher consciousness, there's an endless supply of healing, creative, juicy life force in our body. And this has got nothing to do with running around and being a wild tantra person and going to group sex orgies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
To me, that's like a complete diversion away from what this is all about. It's a very gentle, healthy connection with one's sexuality that flushes out all the old memories from the past. One of my affirmations, and I do it all day long, I release the past. I am generous, I am relaxed. If an experience comes up and all of a sudden I feel thrown off, immediately I say, I release the past. I am generous, I am relaxed, followed by, I have faith and confidence in my future. I am secure. Yeah. So you're letting go and moving forward all the time. And if we can do that in relation to, see, sometimes I'll say to someone I haven't seen for a while, so what's going on in your life? What are you up to these days? They say, oh, releasing more stuff. You know, spend your whole life releasing stuff. I mean, off with its head. Get rid of it now. Live in the present. Just say yes to everything. You would not be who you are, what you are, in the world right now at this moment, except for the sum total of every experience that you've had. And that includes the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I say yes to the whole lot of it, because what I am is beyond duality. All our experiences of everyday life is all to do with duality, changing opposites. But we, the experiencer, are beyond that. So when we center in I am, we can watch, oh, look, I would never say, for example, you know, I'm really angry. Because if I say, I'm really angry, the I has disappeared. It's covered up by John Maxwell Taylor, who thinks he's angry. I wouldn't suppress that feeling of anger. I would say, feeling of anger is arising. A feeling of anger arises, then I can deal with it and transmute it into something else. Otherwise, if I let it possess me, it will run away with me. And we can burn, in 1 minute of being angry, we can burn up the juiciness, the juicy energy that would normally sustain our body healthily and our minds and emotions for 24 hours, gone in 60 seconds. Who wants that? See? So it's constant, gentle, spiritual practice of realignment, letting go, moving forward, and being in the moment with joy.
Yeah. Is there some things that we can do in front of people that are not aligned with that?
Oh, yes.
Say to ourselves beyond the I thing?
Yes, well, one thing is to get out of your head. Feel your feet on the floor while you're talking to people. Feel that you have roots growing out of your feet. And they're you know, most people are in their heads today. It's the age of information. You know, obviously they're talking, it's words. But words are just symbols to describe events, ideas, people, places, stuff. It's a language of symbols, right? But if we get too much of that going on in our head, it eats up our emotional energy and so forth. So what I'm doing, I'm just kind of bringing myself down to my feet all the time, like grounding down. As I'm speaking to you now, you see my head speaking to you, but I'm centered in here, in my chest, and particularly in my stomach, just below here, because this is where the vital force is. So as I look at you now, and as we're talking about this, I'm now becoming aware of every part of my body simultaneously. And as I look at you, there's a sort of a feeling as a presence starting to gather in and around me, you see. So if I'm talking to someone, all of a sudden I feel that, I'll give you a story. My mother, right, a typical British type person, like to complain and moan about everything. You know, there's Uspensky said, an English education consists in the acquisition of a good set of negative attitudes, right? So a few here, no offense to our British viewers, please, because I love my British heritage, but there's a bit of a tendency to complain about stuff, you know. But anyway, I went to visit my mother, and we lived in Wales, you know, so I get to my sister's house, call my mother up, and says, "Oh, hi, Mum, I'm here." She says, "Oh, come on over, we'll have a good moan."
No.
So anyway, a couple of days later, I was in the car with my mother waiting for my son, who was gone to do a little errand in the shops nearby. And all of a sudden, my mother began to, she got out what I call her psychological violin. She began to sing these complaining songs, like, if only we hadn't done this, and if only that, you know. And I immediately began to, this sinking feeling arose, the kind of, I felt it when I was a child. It's what made me want to leave home in the first place, right? So I looked out of the window for a second, and then I sensed and felt the totality of my being, and the presence came. And then I turned and I looked at her, and I just sort of gazed in the general direction of her personality eye while I'm vibrating with all this energy. And all of a sudden she says, "Stop trying to hypnotize me." Now, I wasn't trying to hypnotize her, Lilu. I was trying to stop myself being hypnotized by my old programming.
Interesting, yeah.
That's the key, you see, because that's what happens. You get around people, you fall under their spell. Yeah. You know, we talk about the illusion and people are asleep and everything. What happens is we tend to get hypnotized by whoever we're talking to unless we stay conscious. Mm-hmm. And what you and I are doing, we're having a very conscious conversation today, mm-hmm. because as we talk, we remember ourselves. Looking at you encourages me to remember my spiritual self, merge it with my human self, because that's what you do all the time. If you were a person who knew nothing about this, it's like talking to the, you remember the Planet of the Apes when he's telling the monkeys the truth and they go, with people sometimes. You start talking about spiritual reality and these barriers go up in their ears, their eyes, and they just blank it out. When somebody does that, you can get this sinking feeling. So, but to me, that's a little bell ringing. Okay, do the inner practices, the things in the power of I am, and immediately this presence starts to emanate. And it's really caused by sensing and feeling every part of yourself simultaneously.
So there's nothing really to do, because that we naturally have that. It's just a matter of regaining it and understanding that just by our own presence we can transform. Yes. Things around can transform.
Yes, I call it self-remembering. You see, if you fall under the spell of the situation, you forget yourself and become a thing. You become a reaction mechanism in relation to whatever's in front of you. When you remember yourself, it's like an arrow with two heads. Suppose I'm looking at you, 50% of my attention is going towards you. The other 50% is on feeling myself having that experience. And immediately the presence starts to generate. When self-remembering means you fall into presence, it permeates your human structure, your body-mind organism, and your personhood becomes alive. And so there's the marriage again between me and I. And I just hold the field sometimes and just let people talk. While I do that, really, yes, so forth. And it's not that you're ignoring them. What happens is that as the presence builds up and you connect with your reality, you see it start to wake up in the other person. It comes out. Here's a little story. Emily and I were in a grocery store called Trader Joe's in California. And we're heading up to the checkout stand, and as we approach, the woman behind the cash register, she sees us coming, and she looks up again, she looks at me, and I knew she was thinking, oh, he's kind of cute. Mm-hmm. But I know this, for you don't, right? So, but I also knew that she was going to make some kind of smart remark. Women will often test a guy to see whether if her male side can throw him off, she's not interested. So it's a kind of game that goes on all the time. So I knew she was going to say something. So we get up to the putting our groceries there, and Emily's paying, and I'm putting stuff in the bag. So she looks at us and she says, so you're the muscles and she's the cash? I said, yeah, something like that. She says, Beauty and the Beast. And I'm already doing the thing. I'm looking in the essence eye, and I'm already in the presence. So I said, oh, that's all right. I've always known I'm beautiful. And her eyes went like that, and her essence came out. You see, because that's the silly thing, to make a smart remark. That's all from the little personality self. But I invited her to come and meet me in essence. And, it was just an amazing moment. And this great peace and this atmosphere, certainty and recognition just it emanated all around us. And the more you do this in public situations, the more it becomes second nature to you. So one is juiced up all the time with the circulating energy. It's flowing through your acupuncture meridians. You can feel it pulsating in your arms and legs. If you feel it diminishing, that's a little warning signal to do the practice just to bring it back. There's little techniques that I use. I mean, we can't go into too much today, but this is what I write about and teach in my classes.
And I have another kind of a last question that I feel is going to wrap some of this, is regarding the song, one of your songs called Cosmic Sex.
Cosmic Sex, yes.
Could you tell me what you mean by that?
Well, many people, they have their experience of sexuality with their bodies, but their souls aren't involved in it. And also, they're engaged in friction sex. There's the clash of the personalities. They're trying to resolve the tensions of the day and the eternal struggle between man and woman and so forth. We all have a female side. Every man has what Jung calls the anima. Every woman has the animus. So there's really four people in every relationship: the inner man and the inner woman. And the way that we approach sexuality, Emily and I, is that we're connecting. We have certain tools that we use, and they're become second nature now. Of course, you don't even think about them. It's the way we approach ourselves, that we make love with body, mind and emotions all focused together in a state of self-remembering. And when the body-mind organisms are in harmony and there isn't this struggle between the personalities, it's possible for the orgasmic energy to spread all through the body. Instead of being genitally localized, it lasts for a long, long time, and your communion together just saturates every cell of your body with this creative life force energy, and you begin to slip into this timeless state. And it's a way of feeling that heaven is making love to the earth through you. So the result of that is that afterwards you just feel so whole and so drenched with the wonderful vibrations of health, centeredness, deep love for one another and so forth, that then this becomes an extension which flows into your life. People come to our house to visit. We can't get rid of them. They just want to stay here because the atmosphere, the molecules of the air in any room, they carry a particular quality determined by the thoughts and the attitudes and the activities of the people who inhabit that space. And when one inhabits a sacred space like our home has become, through our meditation practices, through our self-remembering throughout the day, through the harmony between us, through our conscious lovemaking, what happens is that the whole area, we go for a drive somewhere, and as we come near the house, we start to tingle all over. Because the atmosphere here is permeated now with that sacred energy of our divine relationship. And one can do this if one is single, by having that marriage within oneself between the feminine feeling function and the physical or the mental male aspect. It's a marriage of the yin and the yang within the two of you. And ultimately, you can actually, when I go for a walk, I can feel the sky is making love to the earth. So I wrote the song Cosmic Sex about that. The verses, which have a certain amount of tension, it's about the friction sex attitude which rules the world. This tension between man and woman and so forth. The chorus is this expansion into the vision. It's very George Harrison in a way. I love George. He was very bold about singing about the divine, so he kind of set the path for that. So it's very melodic, but it's all about the divine lovemaking. And then at the end, in the coda, Emily and I exchange verbally, in a spoken word, the flow of love between us. She says a line, I say a line. It's because we wanted people to feel the vibration of that love in the song. The CD's not out yet. It'll be out in a couple of months, but that's just one of the samples of it. So does that explain it? I hope so.
Yeah, this is wonderful. Well, thank you, John, for this delicious conversation. I wish you were still living in England and not in Ohio, so we can meet in person and I can do this interview in England. But who knows? Maybe you'll be back in Europe someday.
Yes. I go back to Wales to visit my relatives sometimes, and
Well,
if you ever you're in our area, we would love to have you in our wonderful home. And
thank you.
I just applaud you for all the work that you're doing, and most of all for the steadiness of being that you embody. I'm sure many people feel it, that you are a mobile transmitting station for spirit.
I love that. Oh my goodness, this is good. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Really enjoyed this conversation and your presence, and I'm excited to share it online with as many people around the world as possible.
Wonderful, yes. And kiss England for me.
Yes, I will. The soil.
Yeah, and France too.
And
Bye-bye.
France. How can we deal with those negative energies around us without losing our power?
Right. Well, it's very important that we spiritually evolving people, which means on one level that you're going to become more and more sensitive to the beauty in creation. Your consciousness starts to expand. You don't feel that you're just a body anymore, but you feel that you're occupying a large space around yourself. And when people who are in a negative state of mind are putting out negative energy come in contact with your field, unless you know how to deal with that, you can immediately start to fall under the spell of their negativity. In other words, you're actually being influenced and ruled by something that's downline from you, vibratorily speaking. So if we walked around trying to hold up shields and barriers all day long, we get very, very tired. What we need to do is to increase our energy field to the point where negativity just bounces off us.
Like that.
Yes, the founder of Aikido said, "It's not that I don't get thrown off. I recover so quickly you don't notice I was away." So as my consciousnness began to expand and I opened myself up to become more and more sensitive to the beauty in life, I had to find a way to deal with the variables that come up in social interactions. What I found is, one thing is that the two eyes of a person reflect different aspects of their being. Are you right-handed, Lilu?
Yes, I am, yeah.
Yes, so I'm right-handed also. So as I'm looking at your image now, I'm gazing into your left eye. And what that does, it connects us essence to essence, because that's what you were born with. All babies are born in essence. They're a tabula rasa. Nothing has been written in their consciousness. They're just pure beingness, right? So as we look in our essence eye right now, we're connecting with that. Now, the other eye is the personality eye. This is, you just moved your hair there, and we're looking now right eye to right eye. And for us, that connects with the part of the brain that has all your memories, all your past experiences, hopes, fears, dreams, so forth. It's the good, the bad, and the variable. So whenever I meet anyone for the first time, I shake their hand and I look into their essence eye. We connect essence to essence. Now for you, so as I said, right-handed person, I'm looking in your left eye. So as I shake hands, I look across the shade. If you were left-handed, I would look straight across. Because if you were left-handed, your essence would be in your right eye. What it does, looking into the essence of someone, it establishes immediately a sense of oneness, rapport, underneath whatever's going to be spoken between us. So it's a wonderful way to prepare the stage for a kind of communication that is very free-flowing and very, very open. Now, if you're dealing with an egotist, you talked about egotists. My definition of an egotist is he thinks he is who he thinks he is. This self-identity they've created, and they try to impose that on you.
Hello, John.
Hello, Lilu. Great to see you. Lovely to talk to you.
Thank you.
With you.
You have a lovely British accent. I love it. It's warming my ears for the Juicy Living tour starting in London very soon. How cool is that? Thank you.
It's very exciting. I was looking at that on your site. It's a wonderful thing that you're doing. How lovely for all the people who will get to be with you, and you'll all explore together. It's fantastic.
Yes, and I love this global conversation. You know, I love having conversations with people like you with experience, and I love to share their wisdom openly and freely for people to hear and apply in their own life. And I value your work because for many reasons. You know, you're a multi-hatted man, definitely. You're an artist, a musician, a composer, but also an author.
Playwright, actor.
On and on and on and on. And this conversation I want to deal with, well, I would like to have with you, is about dealing with negative energies and people, and that can lead to whatever else. I know the conversation sometimes has a life of its own. But you're author of 2 books, The Power of I Am and Heroes Ascending.
Eros Ascending, yes.
So from my understanding, your life has been a lot. You have dealt with big, huge egos, I'm sure, in your life, being on the performance stage for 40 years. Right. Especially you have worked with French people, so I'm sure you've dealt with a big deal of that. And I was wondering, what are your recommendations and how